Hello, large man. What brings you to this humble pub, with nary a sight from here to the horizon?
A rest after a long day of hard work, my friend. What brings you here?
Ah, a well-earned rest. I'm just here to enjoy a nice cold drink after a hard day of planting. I do say you look like someone who knows hard work. What sort of things do you do?
Well, I felled my fair share of massive trees, wrestled bears, and built houses on the frontier of America. I'm the hardest working man in North America, some would say the world.
Johnny spits out his drink, completely flabbergasted. The hardest worker in the world? Now listen here, large man. I'm the hardest worker in the world. I've planted 1 billion apple trees from here to Missouri, and I've fed thousands of people with the apples on those trees. I say you could learn a thing or two from me.
Chuckles wiped some of Johnny's spit from his face. 1 billion apple trees, eh? Well, I reckon that's mighty impressive. But that's all you've done? Just planting trees and handing out apples? I've built cabins with my bare hands, cleared vast forests of trees, and wrestled the largest bears you've ever seen.
Johnny slams his cup down, frustrated with Paul's bragging. Well, I'll have you know my work isn't just planting trees. I've tamed the wilderness of the Midwest and built communities from nothing. Sure, you've built cabins and wrestled bears, but have you ever built a community from scratch and brought it to thrive? I don't think so.
Leans in, challenging Johnny. Taming the wilderness and building communities from scratch, huh? Well, that sounds mighty admirable. But you've never had to chop down the mightiest trees in the forest, have you? You've never had to work from dawn until after dusk, pushing your physical limits day in and day out. I've built entire villages with my own 2 hands while you've been planting and preaching.
Johnny leans in as well, meeting Paul's challenge. Oh, don't you start with me, large man. Sure, you've chopped down trees and built villages. But have you ever walked over 1,000 miles in your life? Sure, you've pushed yourself to the limit. But have you ever walked from New York to Michigan with nothing but the clothes on your back and a pack of apple seeds? I don't think so.
Laughs loudly, drawing the attention of the people in the tavern. Walking 1,000 miles, eh? That's quite a feat. But let me tell you something, Appleseed. While you've been on your long walks, I've single-handedly wrestled bears 10 times your size. I've crossed rivers and trekked mountains as part of a regular workday. I've dug holes for wells with my bare hands and built homes from the ground up. I don't think you could handle a fraction of what I've done.
Johnny stands up aggressively, fed up with Paul's bragging. Hey now, don't you be disrespecting me. Sure, you wrestled bears and dug wells. But have you ever lived off the land for days on end? I've survived in the wilderness for weeks with nothing but apples. And the clothes on my back. I don't think you could survive a day without your cabins and your villages, big man.
Stands up as well, towering over Johnny. The wilderness, you say? You think I can't survive out there, do you? I've braved storms, faced mountain lions, and even fought off entire packs of wolves on my own. Don't you underestimate my resilience, Appleseed. I've lived in the harshest conditions and conquered them all. I'm not called the king of the lumberjacks for nothing.
Johnny laughs in disbelief, not intimidated by Paul's height. The king of the lumberjacks, huh? Well, let me ask you this. How many thousands of people depend on you to survive? I make sure that my apples are planted and harvested, feeding thousands of people all over the nation. I'm not called Johnny Appleseed for nothing, you big brute.
Grins widely, amused by Johnny's confidence. Feeding thousands of people, eh? That's admirable, I'll give you that. But I've provided shelter for countless families. My massive log cabins have kept people warm and safe. And while you're out there planting your little trees, I'm shaping the very land we stand on. I've built bridges over roaring rivers and roads through treacherous mountains. I'm not just feeding people, Appleseed, I'm building the foundations of civilization.
All right, Mr. Big Man. Maybe it takes your cabins to quarter the people who need apples, and I use your roads to deliver them. But without my apples, there is no one to fill those big cabins.
looks at you with disdain. Perhaps the two of us have our own ways of doing things. A sudden look of realization. But then again, we both work in the same field, don't we?
Raises an eyebrow. I suppose that's true. I mean, the things we do have a lot in common and have even been compared quite often.
It is strange that us two, who are famous for their strength and hard work ethic, are relaxing here while others struggle to lift a single log.
Ha, well said, large man. It feels as though hard work has become a lost art, a rare and elusive quality. People nowadays, especially the young, they all seem so soft, unmotivated. Johnny takes a swig of his beverage before continuing.
Exactly, Johnny. The boys these days seem weak as a newborn fawn. They'd rather sit in their couches with a remote control than lift weights or chop wood and build. It's like they've never once picked up a piece of equipment, or they did, but dropped it because it was too heavy.
You speak the true, large man. And it's not just young boys, either. Even the fathers, once strong, hard-working men, seem soft and weak. I have seen the fathers of this new generation spend their days lounging on couches, watching television sets. And the mothers, who once worked day in and day out with their children to support their families, they spend their days tapping away on their screens and typing on, what do they call them? Computers.
Ha, that is exactly what I'm talking about, my friend. The fathers, too, lounge and watch television, and the mothers tap on their screens and computers. It is truly a worrisome sight to see such weakness in people. I remember back in my day, the men were strong and hard-working, just like me. The women did not lounge on their screens. They raised their families with love and strength, just like the mothers before them. It seems that these days the new generation is lacking in all areas.
Yes, times were different then. People understood the value of hard work. They understood the importance of sweat, blisters, and calluses. It's as if this new generation has forgotten the basic necessities of life. And the youth, the younger generation, they are the worst of all. Lazy, unmotivated, always buried in their little iPhones and Androids. They have no sense of commitment or responsibility. They lack the old-fashioned work ethic that built this country from the ground up.
Exactly, you're just saying what is on my mind. They don't seem to understand the value of hard work and perseverance, the importance of getting dirty and bloody to get the job done. It's like they have forgotten the lessons of the past, the sacrifices made by our ancestors to build this nation strong. The young generation is simply too soft and entitled, always looking for instant gratification instead of putting in the time and effort to earn something great. They lack the discipline, determination, and courage that our nation and its working class once held in high esteem.
Yes, that is exactly right. This new generation is lazy, entitled, and soft as butter. They lack the discipline and hard work that our ancestors embodied for this nation to rise. Have you seen the youth of today? They are obsessed with these things they call video games, always glued to screens, always demanding instant gratification. They have lost their sense of responsibility, never going out to build and work. They seem to care more about their virtual worlds than the real one in front of them.
Oh, my friend, I hear you loud and clear. It's a shame to see the youth of today so fixated on their virtual world. They spend all day in their parents' basements, glued to their screens, immersed in their imaginary realms. They care more about their video game stats than their communities, families, and the real world that surrounds them. They have lost touch with the value of real work, of getting their hands dirty and building something from nothing. They lack the discipline and perseverance that our ancestors had, and it's reflected in their unwillingness to contribute to society.
Johnny takes another swig of his beer, nodding in agreement. Exactly that, large man. You've hit the nail on the head. You wouldn't believe the amount of children who come up to me, saying they're going to follow their dreams and become a YouTuber. They don't understand what it means to work and build something. They think they can just put their face in front of a camera and make a career out of it without putting in any real effort. Ha! It's laughable.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. These YouTubers and social media influencers think they will have a career just by putting their face on camera and having millions of followers. They forget that success is built on hard work and perseverance, not just having a following. It's truly sad to see these kids wasting their time trying to become internet famous rather than learning a trade or developing real skills. They have no sense of the value of hard work, dedication, and discipline.
Johnny laughs. And don't even get me started on these TikTok dances. They think they're contributing to society, showing off on some stage and shaking their hips as if it's important. It's a disgrace, really. They've lost all sense of discipline and self-respect. They think their little dance moves are going to change the world. Ha! It's a shame, large man.
Paul laughs heartily as well. You're speaking from my soul, Johnny. These TikTok dances, they are nothing but a waste of time. I don't know what they think they are achieving with their hip shaking and twirling. They think they are being cool and viral, but in reality they are just proving how shallow they are. They care more about getting views and likes than actually contributing to society. It's a sad state of affairs when the youth of today value fame more than hard work and discipline.
Johnny nods in agreement. Exactly. These kids today are all about fame and instant gratification. They don't care about hard work and discipline. All they want is to become instantly famous on these social media platforms, without really doing anything of substance. They see these celebrities and influencers on their screens, and they want to be just like them. But they don't understand that those people had to work hard and build themselves up over time. These kids just want everything handed to them on a silver platter.
Paul shakes his head, agreeing with Johnny. You're absolutely right, Johnny. These kids see the success of celebrities and influencers on social media, and they think they can have the same success without putting in the effort. They expect fame and fortune to just fall into their lap without realizing that those who have found success have worked hard and have sacrificed a lot to get where they are. These kids want everything handed to them on a silver platter, without putting in the hard work and discipline they need to earn it. It's truly sad to see.
Johnny nods his head in disapproval. I tell you, large man, it's quite disheartening to see how lazy and entitled this generation has become. They think they can just sit around and do nothing, and still get everything handed to them. They have no respect for hard work, discipline, or even themselves for that matter. Johnny lets out a heavy sigh. It's as if they've forgotten that hard work and perseverance are what built this nation and make it strong. They seem to think that fame and fortune come easily, instead of being earned.
Paul shakes his head sadly in agreement. It's true, Johnny. The new generation has lost sight of what truly makes a person successful. They think they can become famous or wealthy without putting in any hard work or discipline. They have no respect for the effort and dedication it takes to achieve greatness. Instead, they expect everything to be given to them on a silver platter, without understanding the value of hard work. It's truly a shame that this generation has forgotten the importance of perseverance, character, and personal development.
Johnny nods, his expression turning serious. It's truly disheartening, large man. These kids are too focused on instant gratification and fame, but they don't understand what it really means to work and build something from scratch. They think that everything can be handed to them just by being popular on social media. But that's not how the real world works. They need to understand that success takes hard work, perseverance, and discipline. Johnny takes a deep breath, shaking his head in disapproval yet again.
Paul takes a deep breath and nods in agreement with Johnny. So Appleseed, what is to blame?
Johnny takes a moment to think. Well, large man, I reckon there's plenty of reasons for it. I'd say it has a lot to do with the way kids are raised. For starters, they're not taught the value of hard work and discipline like they used to be. Instead, they're coddled and given everything on a silver platter. Johnny takes another sip of his beer. Another thing I'd say is the influence of modern technology and social media. It's all too easy for the youth of today to just spend their days scrolling through their phones and laptops.
Paul listens to Johnny's thoughts with an understanding nod. I see what you're getting at, Johnny. You bring up a lot of valid points there. The way kids are raised, the influence of technology and social media, all of these play a role in how the young generation is shaped. It's like they're growing up in a world where instant gratification is king, and hard work and discipline are left behind. The easy access to technology and social media doesn't help either, as you said. They spend more time on their screens than interacting with the real world.
Johnny scratches his chin, thinking hard in silence for a while. Well, I reckon one solution could be to put some responsibility back on the parents. They need to teach their kids the value of hard work and discipline. Rather than just coddling them and giving them everything they want, they need to set boundaries and make sure their kids don't just spend all their time on screens. Johnny takes another sip of his beer. Another solution I can think of is to encourage more practical skills and activities for the next generation. Give them something to do besides just staring at screens.
Paul nods thoughtfully in agreement. That sounds like good advice, Johnny. The parents definitely need to play a role in shaping their kids' work ethic. They need to make sure they're not spoiling them and giving them everything they want without making them earn it. And yeah, encouraging practical skills and activities would be helpful too. It gives the kids something useful to do, something productive. Rather than just sitting them in front of screens all day, let's get them out there learning hands-on skills and experiencing the real world.
Johnny smiles. Exactly, large man. The more we can get the youth of today interested in real-world skills and activities, the better. It will teach them that hard work and discipline are important, and that success isn't just handed out on a silver platter. Johnny takes another swig of his beer. And speaking of real-world skills, I wonder what kids these days would do if they were faced with a real challenge. Like chopping wood or building something from the ground up. I doubt they could handle it.
Paul laughs heartily at the thought. Huh? You're absolutely right, Johnny. I doubt they could handle anything like that. They're so used to having everything easy and convenient they'd probably give up after the first 10 minutes. Paul takes a swig of his own beer. Back in our day, we didn't have all these fancy gadgets and shortcuts. We had to do things the old-fashioned way, and we learned to appreciate the value of hard work because of it.
Johnny lets out a hearty laugh, too. Exactly right, large man. These days, the youth of today are so coddled and pampered, they wouldn't know real hard work if it hit them in the face. Johnny takes a sip of his beer and thinks for a moment. As for schools and education, I reckon there's some changes that could be made. They need to focus more on practical skills and applications, instead of just rote memorization. These kids need to learn how to apply their knowledge to real-world situations, not just cram for tests and forget everything after.
Paul nods in agreement. Right on the money there, Johnny. The education system seems to focus on rote memorization nowadays, rather than teaching practical skills. Kids learn stuff just to pass tests, but they don't really know how to apply it to the real world. They would be better off learning things that they can actually use in life. We need to make sure that they know how to put their knowledge to use, not just regurgitate it for some test.
Johnny nods, his expression serious. Exactly right, large man. The education system these days seems to prioritize test scores and grades over practical skills. It seems like kids are just learning to pass tests and move on, not really understanding the value of what they're learning or how to apply it beyond the classroom. Johnny thinks for a moment, his expression turning nostalgic. When we were young, we didn't have all these modern gadgets or fancy technology. We had to work hard and learn things the old-fashioned way, and we were better off for it.
Paul lets out a deep sigh in agreement. You're preaching to the choir, Johnny. The old-fashioned way of teaching and disciplining kids was harder, but it taught us important lessons about responsibility and hard work. It wasn't all about getting high scores on tests or getting into fancy colleges. We were expected to work hard and take pride in our work. Nowadays, teachers are bogged down by red tape and parents are scared to discipline their kids, and that's what you get, a soft, over-entitled generation.
Johnny nods, his expression solemn. You've hit the nail on the head, large man. The old-fashioned way of teaching and disciplining didn't focus on grades or fancy colleges, but on building character and work ethic. Johnny takes another sip of his beer. It's tough to see how soft and entitled the new generation has become, with parents who don't dare to discipline their kids and teachers who are bogged down by red tape. They're not being taught the same values and discipline that we were.
Paul rubs his chin, thinking deeply. Well, Johnny, that's a tough question. I reckon there's no easy fix for the schools. For one thing, we need to get rid of all the red tape that's holding teachers back. We need to give them the freedom to teach and discipline their students the way they were taught to when we were kids. But that probably won't be enough to fix the entitlement issue. Maybe we need to bring the old-fashioned ways of teaching character and work ethic back. We need to inspire these kids to value hard work and discipline.
Johnny thinks for a moment, taking another sip of his beer. Well, large man, it's a tough situation. The first step would be to give teachers the freedom to teach and discipline their students the way they used to. That should help a bit. But you're right. We need to bring back the old-fashioned ways of teaching character and work ethic. We need to make the new generation value hard work and discipline. Johnny ponders for a while. I think the best way to do that would be to get them involved in practical activities and real-world skills.